microphone. We're continuing about davening, and last night I just came back from a camping trip with my kids. We daven in the camping area, so we have a question: where do you daven to? Which direction do you daven? And obviously, you daven toward Jerusalem, and today it's very easy. You open your app, you look at Jerusalem, it's exactly this point, right? And you measure it. In the olden days, they didn't have the exact direction. They used to have more or less the direction. And we'll learn today about what direction do we daven and what happens if we don't know where Jerusalem is. And also davening on a train. If you go to Tel Aviv from Jerusalem, I think the 6:39 train has a minyan with a Sefer Torah. Also, I think they have a minyan with a Sefer Torah. It's a very long train. And on the last days of the train, there's a minyan there with a Sefer Torah. Good for commuters.
They can't have the train ride is only
They start, I think it's getting there already before, like if the train is at 6:39, so 6:30 already, they'll be starting. Until it gets to Tel Aviv, it takes 7:10, something like that. So it's not such a good commute. And the question is, can you daven on a train? Can you daven sitting down? Do you have to stand up? What happens if can you daven walking for different reasons? And that's the topic we will be davening today. We're talking about today. And let's begin. Okay, let's begin. So we'll start from the simple halachot, and then we'll get into more interesting questions on halachot. So the Shulchan Aruch says, if you're davening out of Israel, have your face towards Israel. If you are in Israel, have your face towards Jerusalem. Or actually, it says, if you're out of Israel, have your face towards Israel, and also have in mind Jerusalem and Beit HaMikdash and Kodesh HaKodashim. If you are in Israel, so face towards Jerusalem and have in mind also the Mikdash, the Beit HaMikdash, and Kodesh HaKodashim. If you are standing in Jerusalem, so face the Beit HaMikdash. Jerusalem in those days was quite small. So if you're in Jerusalem, you know exactly what area the Beit HaMikdash is. And have in mind also Kodesh HaKodashim. And if you are standing behind the Kaporet, which is around the Kotel Ma'aravi, so face towards the Kaporet. So it's actually today facing a bit to the left. So if you face the Kotel, you should actually be facing a bit towards the left, because that's facing Kodesh HaKodashim, right? You do towards. So if you are facing towards the Kotel, where was Kodesh HaKodashim? Maybe even 45. I'm not sure how many degrees, but somewhere towards the left. And you'll see some people actually in the Kotel, they don't daven facing the Kotel, they daven facing a bit towards the left, because that's towards Kodesh HaKodashim. If you go in the tunnels, before the tunnels, I'm sure some of you were there, right? Once you're getting closer. You're getting closer. There's a place where they say that's opposite Kodesh HaKodashim. And there's a small, like a tiny shul there, and people daven there. There's also a beautiful shul in the relatively beginning of the tunnels. I think it's called Tshuva, the Tshuva Shul. Have you been there? Beautiful shul. Afterwards, Google it, and they're very nice. I'm sure it wasn't cheap to build it. Something interesting here in the halacha. What does the Shulchan Aruch say? If you are standing out of Israel, so face towards Israel and have in mind also Jerusalem and the Beit HaMikdash and also Kodesh HaKodashim. Simple question. Why not just face Kodesh HaKodashim? If I'm in Jordan, I can almost see Jerusalem. I mean, just a few kilometers east of here, I can see Har Zion. I can see Har HaZitim, Mount, and Har HaSofim. I can see Mount Scopus. So why to face towards Israel and have in mind also Kodesh HaKodashim? Just cut it straight. The Shulchan Aruch writes, if he's out of Israel, face the direction of Israel, and also have in mind towards Jerusalem and towards Beit HaMikdash and towards Kodesh HaKodashim. Okay, why don't they go straight to Kodesh HaKodashim?
You don't know where it is.
You don't know exactly where it is. Okay, now the Mishnah Berurah writes, and I'm going to ask a question on the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah writes, although you can't face exactly Beit HaMikdash, you can't face exactly Kodesh HaKodashim, okay, so at least his intention should be towards it. So that's how it's a very technical reason. I have a question. Let's say you're in the States. You're in the States. How big is the States? Big. When you daven towards the east, I think, right? In the States, you daven towards Mizrach, okay? Are you exactly hitting, facing exactly Israel? No. Israel is so small, you can't even have no room in the map to put the name of Israel inside. So you're facing some way towards, more or less towards Israel, right? So if in any case I'm aiming more or less towards Israel, so just aim more or less towards Jerusalem. What's the difference between aiming more or less towards Israel and more or less towards Jerusalem? Let's say I'm now in Haifa. Okay, now it's easy. I need to just aim towards Jerusalem. If I take before they had phones and they had exactly that's the degree used to face more or less, right? So what's the difference between facing more or less Jerusalem and more or less Beit HaMikdash? If I hit the right place, I hit the right place. And if I don't hit the right place, so what does it matter? What do we care? Like, the reason I'm asking the question is why someone out of Israel doesn't have Kavanah. It says, okay, let's look at the compass and my app, and I'll go straight towards Jerusalem. I want to open, I didn't bring here a book of Tanakh, but I want to open here the book. I'll open in the
Well, into this question,
yeah.
as you know, we can face, let's say you're in the United States, you can face directly eastward, or you can go the way the airplanes go, and they go pretty much north and over Greenland and over Europe, which is a shorter distance.
It's a short, yeah.
So which is more correct?
It's more or less Israel. Israel, more or less Israel. We'll get to it soon if you don't know the exact.
I mean, England, I think always used to face east. That's not too much.
Although it's southeast, right? Why? Because you go by the. It's more southeast, yeah, southeast. Okay, in Sefer Melachim, Melachim Aleph, Kings Aleph, Perek Chet, the 8th Perek. Shlomo HaMelech builds Beit HaMikdash, and he gathers all of the nation, and he has a known prayer to Hashem. He prays, there's a whole feast and a festival, and everyone's happy. They're now building the Beit HaMikdash after building it for quite a few years. And he blesses Hashem, and he prays to Hashem that Hashem will listen to the nation who are davening towards this place. And he uses a few terms, or in different verses, he uses a few terms. I want to read some of them for you. So, ושמעת אל תחינת עבדך ועמך ישראל, you should listen to the prayer of your servant, Shlomo HaMelech, and your nation, that will daven towards this place. So talk about davening towards this place. And it also, a bit later, towards this house, and this place, and a long chapter. So I won't find all of them fast, but Robinson, yeah. Church, yeah. So he mentions sometimes davening towards this place, right? And then he also mentions that v'yitpa'elu el Hashem erech ha'ir asher bacharta ba. They'll daven to Hashem through this city that you have chosen, and this house that I built to you. So HaMelech sometimes builds, sometimes he mentions just davening towards Beit HaMikdash, and sometimes davening towards the city. When will people daven towards the city? when they are not in Israel. I'll read a bit beforehand. If the nation goes to a war, so if they're going to a war, where are they? Out of Israel or out of town, right? So how do they daven? Towards Jerusalem, and then also towards the towards the Mikdash. A few verses afterwards, if people are out of Israel and they're now in exile, scattered around Poland, Turkey, Yemen, United States, wherever they are, they'll daven to you through the country, through the place, the land you gave to our forefathers, through the city, and the house that I built for you. So Shlomo HaMelech mentions here three options of davening. One option is davening straight towards the temple. The second option, city, and then temple. The third option, land, city, temple. Right? Land, city, temple. So Shlomo HaMelech already, he's the source of, you can't do a shortcut. I'm now in Spain, I can take a laser beam and daven straight towards Beit HaMikdash. I need to go by the land of Israel, I need to go by Jerusalem, and I need to go by the temple. I think there's something very, very important, and we have the merit that we are now here in Israel. A person can't skip levels. If we are out of Israel, we can't daven for Beit HaMikdash, for the temple, for divine presence, before we build a capital. And we can't have a capital if we don't have a state, right? You can't skip and say, okay, I'm now holy, I'll go to Beit HaMikdash, and I'm skipping the land of Israel, I'm skipping Jerusalem, I'm going straight to Kodesh HaKodashim. No, it doesn't work like that. Shlomo HaMelech says we have levels, you have to go level after level. And if a person is in exile and he's out of Israel, he first has to realize the importance of the land. And only then he can understand the importance of Jerusalem, and only then he can understand the importance of Beit HaMikdash. It doesn't go the opposite. There's a skit of an old Israeli comedy group. A skit, they want to build a big tower. And one of the guys says, I have a great idea. We're talking about the big panoramic, whatever is on the top. Let's start building the tower from the top. And the guy says, that's an idea. And why are we laughing? Because you can't build a tower from the top, right? So if we are out of Israel, you daven towards the land of Israel. Even if you can't, okay, I'll take the laser beam, I'll be 1 degree towards north and 1 degree towards south. It doesn't matter. It's where my intention is. And the intention is first, we need to build the land, then the city, and then the temple. It connects very much to the days we are now in. And a class, although it's a more class about tefillah, but we just understand the days. A few days ago, we fasted for Yud Tammuz. Hopefully we will not, but in a few weeks, 2.5 weeks, we will have the fast of Tisha B'Av. And the question is, why do we have 2 fasts for the same thing? One of them is for the destruction of the temple, and also the other one is for the destruction of the temple. Why do we have 2 fasts for one thing? Especially when they're so close. So we won't go into it all of it now, but the simple answer is, Yud Tammuz isn't for destroying the temple. Yud Tammuz is for destroying the capital, the walls of Jerusalem. There's no capital of the nation. That's the fast. Okay, so we have the capital, our nation, a country, a state, and we also have Beit HaMikdash. It's a level above a level. And that's what we learn here from the Shulchan Aruch, what we learn from Shlomo HaMelech, and now we are continuing. Sometimes in the halacha, people used to have the body face to different directions. We mentioned an option a few weeks ago in halacha. Let's say there's a person looking after his children out of shore. So he's davening in front of the Aron Kodesh. He should daven having his body facing the Aron Kodesh, because he wants to show he's part of the community. So people will be davening towards the west here, but he'll davening the opposite side, towards the east, because he wants to be part of the community. We won't go into it now, we learned it a few weeks ago. If the body is not facing Jerusalem, so at least the face should be facing towards Jerusalem. That's not such a common halacha, but if the body for some reason is not facing Jerusalem, at least the face should be facing Jerusalem. No, so they turn around when they daven Shmoneh Esrei. When you're talking about facing, it's just Shmoneh Esrei. Tefillah is Shmoneh Esrei. Shema Yisrael, you can face whatever direction. When sometimes we read it, let's say you're out in camping or a conference somewhere and you start davening, and in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei, someone says to you, hey, you should be davening in this direction. What do? Move? Maybe, but just move your face. Turn your face around. Okay, so turn your face a bit to the right, or turn your face a bit to the left. Okay, in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei, that you can do. And that happens not very often, but quite often. You're davening in somewhere, and then right after you daven, there'll always be the guy, hey, we aren't in the right direction, guy. Hey, you said half a minute earlier. Okay, but just turn your face towards the correct direction. Yeah. Hopefully we'll get to it about walking in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei. Walking in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei, it's easier than talking. There's a big need, you can walk in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei. For example, I'm davening, I need Ya'aleh Ve'avo, I don't have a siddur, so I can pick him up without talking. Yeah, so I can move in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei if needed, but only if needed. So if you're just not moving the face towards the right direction, just move your face towards the right direction. So we can move in Shmoneh Esrei, but only if needed. If you don't know what's the right direction, as long as your mind and the heart is towards the Kadosh Baruch. Okay, the land of Israel, Beit HaMikdash, it's our physical part, physical gate to Hashem. But in the end, our goal is to go to Hashem. So usually, you need to walk through the gate. But if you don't know what the gate is, so at least have your heart facing Hashem. There's a halacha which was more, I think, practical in the past, but you can still learn from it things for today. In the past, people took a long time to get from place to place. And if you have a group of people walking in the desert, you can't stop now, they won't wait for you. And sometimes you need to daven while they're walking. Even if you're alone, but you look at your watch and say, 1 second, davening now will take me 20 minutes, the day is short, it's winter. If I daven now, you're thinking, instead of thinking about davening, you're thinking about, it's taking me time, will I get on time, won't I get on time? Sometimes the intention and the mindset is disturbed because of stopping and davening. Okay, so in these cases, a person can daven while he's walking, even Shmoneh Esrei while he's walking. Why? Because it will be easier for him to concentrate in davening while he is walking compared to if he stops. Is it common today? Not so common today. Maybe something that's stop in the middle of the highway. Better just say while I'm driving.
Right.
At least for the first pasuk, we should stop. Okay, but okay, but let's say I'm sitting on a train. I'm sitting on a train. Sit the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, in a ship, on a train. Today in a ship you can stand, no problem. If you can stand, stand. If you can't, so sit down in your place and daven. Take it to practical places. On a train, usually you can stand. So stand. On a bus, you can't always stand. Sometimes it's very difficult to stand. So it's better if you need to stand, every movement, the bus moves, you're falling over. So sometimes it's just better to sit down and daven. And it really depends on the situation. How much time do I have afterwards? How much time do I have now? But if let's say I'm now running late on time and I have to daven now in the bus, and I cannot stand up, so daven while you are sitting down. The Shulchan Aruch does bring an opinion that at least on the bracha of Avot, okay, the first bracha of Shmoneh Esrei, stand up. And many times, even in a bus, for half a minute it takes to say Avot, you can stand up, even just for that. If you're sitting down, okay, in a car, in a bus, whatever. If you can stand up, a plane, for example, right? And a plane usually it's a bit easier to stand up, but not always. The plane is more steady. A plane, right? Yeah. So a plane is a good example. Sometimes you can't daven before the plane or after the plane. The only time you have to daven is on the plane itself, right? Especially if you took off at midnight and you'll be landing anywhere, depending what direction you go. New York to Israel. So Shachrit, you have to do it 3 times in the plane, and you can't stand up in the back of a plane because everyone's walking by and they'll get upset at you. And if you can stand up for avot and for when we need to bow down, which means avot and modim, that's the best. Stand up. It's also comfortable, but at least for that part, stand up. And for the end of Shemona Esrei, when you walk 3 steps, usually for those few seconds, you can stand up, especially if you're standing next to the aisle. You can go out, stand up for half a minute, sit down, stand up again for half a minute. Usually you can do it. That's fine. If you can't, so sit down for the whole davening. We're talking here only about Shmoneh Esrei. Okay? Shema Yisrael, sit down for Shema Yisrael. A person who isn't feeling well, can he daven lying down? Everyone should have Refuah Shlema, should have strength, and be able always to daven standing up. And a person who's not feeling well, can he daven lying down? And the answer is yes. If he has kavana, he can have his intention and mindset for davening, he can daven even lying down on his side. And the Ramah brings, and that's Salah, even if he can't daven, he's too weak to daven, at least have in mind, think about davening. Say the brachot in thinking. So if someone, I don't know, had some kind of surgery, operation, depending on what procedure, what kind of English you use, right? And he can't stand up, and sometimes he even can't talk. So at least think about the words of Shmoneh Esrei. At least that.
Talking about it being an appropriate environment of people. What if you're davening in a bus and I don't know, some woman is not so clear?
So that's a problem. That's a problem. We learned in the past about some opinions says it's enough to close your eyes. Yeah. And for that, obviously, to close your eyes. Another opinion says a bit more stringent, that you need to face a different direction. Okay, so, for example, that could be I'm facing towards Jerusalem. Exactly in front of me, there's a group of women, and they aren't dressed modestly. So I'll face a different direction. Happen modestly. Back to healthy people. When you stand for Shmoneh Esrei, and we're talking about people who can stand, healthy people, may we all be healthy and same. Person should be careful not to lean on something. You shouldn't lean on something, just sit down. Just stand up, I mean. What's the definition of leaning? Leaning means if I move the thing away, does I change? Does my position change? Do I fall down? Let's see if I can touch something, so it's fine, but leaning means if I'm now moving the center away, and now all of a sudden I need to straighten up myself or catch myself not to fall, that's called leaning. So when the person davens Shmoneh Esrei, he shouldn't lean on anything, just stand up straight. There's the Shulchan Aruch. And this halacha, I think I mentioned in the past, and I want to bring it's an interesting halacha, also because the halacha itself, and also because the Mishnah Berurah writes that the poskim argue with the Shulchan Aruch. We mentioned a few cases a person can daven when he's sitting down. For example, he's on the bus, he's on the plane, right? He can't stand up. He should daven sitting down. The Shulchan Aruch writes that when a person who had to daven sitting down, when he can repeat his davening standing up, he needs to repeat his davening standing up. And he doesn't need to add anything. Just daven again standing up. For example, you're taking the bus from Eilat to Jerusalem, or Eilat to Tzfat. I'm not sure there's a bus like that. Let's say there's a bus from Eilat to Tzfat. a long bus, you wake up early in the morning and there's traffic, you look at the watch and say, oh no, I'm going to miss time of Shachrit, you start davening. Half an hour after you finish davening, the bus driver says, hey guys, we're stopping here at the gas station, 25 minutes, everyone come back to the bus. Hey, 1 second, I have time to daven. Should I daven again or not? According to Shulchan Aruch, yes, daven again. Why? Because davening needs to be standing up. Davening needs to be like an angel standing up. And so much needs to be standing up. But if one daven sitting down, he needs to repeat davening again, standing up. That's interesting halacha. Let's see, I don't know this thing. What? So the Mishnah Berurah writes that most of the poskim say that you do not need to repeat davening again, and that's the minhag. We do not need to repeat davening again. And if you daven in the pain on the bus, whatever, sitting down, you do not need to daven again. And that's the minhag. And he talks about should he daven again, should he daven again, but minhag is not to daven again. And why I'm bringing this halacha is that if we can stand up, let's say in the bus, and you can say, okay, maybe I will be able to stand up, so at least make the effort to stand up. In a train, where it's easier to stand up, so stand up. In the plane, if you have a bit of space between your seats, and you can see now the flight is quite smooth, so stand up. If we have the ability to stand up, we should have the effort standing up. We have another minute and a half. Let's just go fast through a few halachot. When we stand up, we should be like angels, which means having as if our leg one. What's the spiritual meaning of it now? We won't go into it, but there's something which I'm towards Hashem. There's like one leg. I'm not pulled to different directions. All of my body is facing Hashem. So the legs should be together. The head should be a bit down. We're standing in front of the king, in front of Hashem, a bit down. And the eyes should be like lower down, but the heart should feel as if we are now standing in Beit HaMikdash, as if facing towards Hashem. What do we do with the hands? So many people hold their hands like this, like a servant in front of his master. That's a very typical halacha of the right hand covering the left hand, maybe more for Kabbalistic reasons. But some people put their hands together like this on their heart. Some people hold maybe the standard. And the main idea is to stand like I'm standing in front of an important person, in front of a king. I shouldn't stand like, how do you call it? Having my arms together, like, hey, look at me, I'm strong. Statue of having my hands on my waist, I'm now full of myself, right? Should stand as if we're standing in front of a king. And says the Shulchan Aruch, it's good to stand like that also in Kedusha. So if you see people standing in Kedusha with the legs straight, that's great. If you see people standing in Kedusha when the legs aren't straight, the legs are separated, so it's maybe not the best thing, but it's fine. So we will conclude here, and we have our tefillot will be like angels.